I return after a year of not being here because advanced education and all the fun along the way. Yeah, I've been doing exams and coursework and more exams and yet more exams, if you couldn't believe it. But yeah, I'm here now. I have new audio setups, so I don't quite sound like I'm in a coffin anymore. If you like the idea of me talking at you instead of you having to read subtitles, then I'll continue doing this. If not, then I'll be slightly sad, but I'll continue doing what I did before. Now, let's get on with the video, shall we?
I have the list of requirements for the old mine on me. No.
Righty, in no particular order other than the ones that I found them in, straight out the gate you can find a torch, an ore nugget, and a bottle of beer. Then, after going through the palisade, you can pick up some blueberries, then beat up a meat bug for its bug meat. Walking down the path a bit, you will be able to find your first arrow of many, a tumbler. In the chest there is some stuff that you've picked up before, as well as your very first lockpick. At the entrance to the abandoned mine you'll find your first pickaxe. Going over the bridge will grant you your first rusty sword. A little further along you shall find your first bottle of rice schnapps, and beating up the juvenile mole rat shall grant you your first bit of raw meat. Climbing up the cliff on the left side you will find your first Seraphis, whilst going up and over you'll find your first essence of healing as well as your first club. Going back down into the valley you'll find your first old sword. Then, a little past the scavengers, you will be able to find your first orc leaf. Going into the old camp and into Diego's hut you'll be able to find a plate, and in Diego's chest, along with other goodies, you'll be able to find some grilled meat, some cheese, a bottle of water, a jug, as well as a pan. Heading over to the outer ring smithy, in the chest you'll be able to find some raw steel and a couple of crude swords, and using the raw steel you can then make glowing steel, glowing blades, normal blades, and finish off the rest into crude swords to sell later. Just outside the south gate you'll be able to find some hell mushrooms as well as some slave's bread, whilst in a nearby cave you will be able to find the amulet of a dead guard, as well as a withered axe, a healing herbs, solinicae, and an apple. From Dexter you can buy a green novice, northern dark, dream call, as well as a map of the colony. From Fisk you can buy a short sword, farmer's defense, lurker's bite, thorn of wounds, and digger's discipline. After speaking to Whistler about getting admitted to the old camp, Fisk will sell you Whistler's sword to keep the amulet of the dead guard while still completing the quest. Right after pressing Ctrl forward to talk to Sly, press tab in quick succession to open your inventory. Then, when choosing the option to give the amulet away, quickly press Ctrl right after in order to put the amulet in your hand. The game will think you've given the item away, but drawing and sheathing your weapon will allow you to pick the amulet up off of the ground and keep it. Snaff will give you a bowl of rice the first time you meet him, and he'll also give you 3 bowls of meat bug ragu when you do his quest for him. Beating up Graham will give you his sketch, the map to the old mine, the overview of the old camp, as well as a second map of the colony, which will be useful later. Graham, conveniently, also has the stronger variation of the club. Talking to Graham to get the map to the old mine will get you a second copy of the map to the old mine. You can keep the sealed letter in a similar way in which you kept the amulet of the dead guard, but instead of pressing Ctrl right, you have the option of pressing Ctrl forward to read the letter whilst you're giving it away in order to keep it. Now, I gave an honest try to try and have the sealed letter and the open letter at the same time, but by the looks of it, they are mutually exclusive. As a reward from Torres, I would suggest picking the Essence of Spirit, as it is the first mana-increasing item you can get. In the 2 chests of the Castle Smithy, you'll be able to find an Essence of Strength as well as a rusty 2-hander. In the guard barracks, in the chest to the left of the door, you'll be able to find a load of bolts, the other variation of the torch, as well as the Book of the Battle of Verand, Volume 1. Now, this wouldn't be a Totally Not Day video if we didn't have the potion exploit. To perform it, step into the river whilst also opening your inventory. You'll start floating down the river. There is a sweet spot where your feet just barely scrape the bottom of the sand. At this point, use the potion. This will give you the effect of the potion whilst also not consuming it. Careful not to use this exploit too much in one go, since if you float too far down the river, you can lock your game. Kind of. You can get out of it by using Ctrl-Alt-F8. This is a debugging tool, but you don't have to activate Marvin mode to use it, so take it as you will. Back at the marketplace, beating up the guard that is next to Fisk, you'll be able to get claws, teeth, bread, as well as a light crossbow. In Fisk's hut, you'll be able to find a short bow, an essence of dexterity, sulfur, pure alcohol, wine, a razor, as well as some cutlery. Beating up Jackal will give you the heavy crossbow as well as the bone breaker. Herrick, the kind soul that he is, agreed to give me his nail club as well as his other possessions. Baal Taran has the other version of the coin, the one which allows NPCs to stay around even as they're dead. In the Ore Baron's house, beating up Scar will give you Scar's sword, the war crossbow, as well as an elixir of healing. Beating up Arto will give you Arto's sword, as well as a ring of lesser dexterity. On the table in Gomez's throne room, you'll be able to find some ham, some root soup, and some candlesticks. In Thoris's room, in the chest, you can find extracts of healing, extracts of life, potions of swiftness, and armor amulets. Also in Thoris's room on the table is the book Hunt and Prey. Also in the upstairs of the Ore Baron's house, in the room that leads to the storage tower, you can find the book The Art of Fighting. In the chest right next to said book, you can find the Amulet of Stoneskin. In the storage tower of the Ore Baron's house, you can find goblets, wolf skins and skins of a shadow beast, ring of flame protection, protection of fire, ring of wooden skin, horn of a shadow beast, extract of magic energy, and the elixir of magic energy. In Raven's room, you can find the amulet of spiritual power. At the end of Raven's room on the table is the book Magic Ore. Beating Karim in a fight, you'll be able to claim his amphora and the sting mace to be yours. By beating up Bullet, you can acquire the Sword of Fear. Beating up someone who is working on their hut can get you a hammer. At the campfire near Cavalon's hut, you can find some Minecrawler soup. Delicious. In Cavalon's chest, you can find Cavalon's key. In Cavalon's storage cave, you can find a Firebolt scroll, as well as a light scroll. On the path from Cavalon's hut to the new camp, you can find Stone Root. Mordrag will give you Mordrag's ring once he finishes escorting you from the old camp to the new camp. By beating up the Rice Lord, you can yoink Molite Grease, a Ring of Life, and the Scepter. By slaying the Dam Lurker, you can claim its Lurker's Skin, Lurker's Claws, and Claws of a Dam Lurker. The former two require you to have learned skinning reptiles and gaining claws as trophy-taking skills. Beating up poor old Homer, you will be able to get a bottle of mercury, a pipe, and a mace. Why the hell does he have mercury again? By beating up Shrike in the new camp, you will be able to steal his rider's bow, as well as claim his hut as your own. This is where I'll be storing all of my items if I'm not going to be carrying them on my person. From Wolf, you can buy the book The Bloodflies, as well as grapes. By doing Baal Kagan's quest of handing out swampweed, you'll be able to get Prepared Dream Call. By talking to Swiney in the free mine, and wanting to join up as a scraper, he will give you the digger's dress. From Sharky, you can buy a poker, a sickle, a hand axe, as well as a smith's hammer. By beating up a peasant, you can acquire a cutter. By beating up Gorna Drak and the Templar that accompanies him, you will be able to get the King's Blade, as well as a light two-hander. By participating in Snipes' shenanigans, you will be able to acquire Aaron's Key. In Aaron's chest, you will be able to find a Scroll of Healing. Raven herbs can be found in various points in the old mine, but I found my first ones just outside the store. By paying Aleph 50 ore, you will be able to acquire the key to the store in the old mine, as well as a Ring of Strength. Ian will give you the list of requirements for the old mine, assuming you ask Diego why Ian would bother giving you the list. Similarly to how you kept the sealed letter from the beginning of the game, you can keep the original list of requirements while still getting the extended list from Lares by reading the letter whilst you are giving away the list of requirements, assuming that you have your inventory open whilst you are in dialogue. When giving away the list of requirements but still aiming to keep it, it is first recommended that you not have the original letter in your inventory. Then perform the same debauchery as beforehand, where, just as you choose the option to give the letter away, read it, in order to keep it. To acquire the Light Guard's sword, first report to Lares about giving away the extended list of requirements. Then go to Gorn. He'll give you some food items which you already had before, as well as the sword. I didn't know the sword actually existed up until recently. It always blended in with the massive crude swords that I usually just casually carry around. By beating up Lares, you will be able to take Lares' axe for your own, as well as a longbow. On his shelf is an Essence of Life. At the back of the bar, by beating up Jeremiah, you can claim a couple of lab flasks. At the front of the bar, by beating up Silas, you can claim Silas's axe. Torloff's axe can be acquired by beating up Torloff. To make sure you don't die in the process, save as soon as you beat Torloff to the ground, then load that save. This should end hostilities towards you. In a similar fashion, you can thus get Oryx's axe, and afterwards no one cares if you beat up Lee for Lee's axe. In the cave that is by the waterfall, which itself is by the new camp, you will be able to find a poker, as well as a wooden spoon, once you get through all the black goblins. By killing a bloodfly, you will be able to get the stinger and its wings. To get the former, you first need to read the book The Bloodflies. On a rock, on the way to the sect camp, you will be able to find Copper Beech Seed. By a stump, also on the way to the sect camp, you will be able to find the second variation of healing herbs. In the chest of the sect smithy, you will be able to find axes, as well as mandibles of a minecrawler. By beating up Fortuno, you will be able to get Fortuno's club. In Core Kalam's left chest, you'll be able to find Kalam's recipe. In the more swampier parts of the sect camp, you'll be able to find the third variation of healing herbs. Near the groups of swampweed harvesters, you will, for some reason, be able to find swampweed. I wonder why. By beating up Baal Oren, you'll be able to get Oren's club, which, for some reason, sounds like a sword. And I love it. You can keep Kalam's recipe by reading it as you're giving it away. Alternatively, you can buy it back from Dexter from his trading inventory if you really want to keep it for some reason. By beating up a digger who is playing the lute, you'll be able to get a not insignificant number of loots. Remembering that the store shed in the old mine exists again, in the right chest you'll be able to find Scrolls of Fireball. Behind the waterfall that is itself relatively near the new camp and the old mine, you'll be able to find a Scroll of Telekinesis. Upon being accepted into the new camp, you will be able to acquire the Rogue's Dress. After being accepted, speaking to Kronos about whether or not he has a message for the Magicians of Fire will grant you the Messenger's Amulet of the Magicians of Water, as well as Kronos' letter. You can keep Kronos' letter even as you're giving it away by, you guessed it, reading it as you're giving it away. This is a common theme in this video, I hope you don't get bored. From Skip, you can buy a Guard's Sword and a Battle Sword. In the Black Goblin Cave, which is between the old camp and the sect, you'll be able to find the Almanac. Reading it gives you 50 XP. How nice. Hey look, it's chapter 2! How cool. I promise things will pick up pace a little bit. By beating up Baal Kadar, you will be able to get the overview of the swamp camp, Potion of Swiftness, Ring of Oreskin, Ring of Ironskin, Ring of Defense, Ring of Spiritual Power, Ring of Stoneskin, Scroll of Fist of Wind, Scrolls of Transform into Wolf, Scavenger, Mole Rat, Lurk, Minecrawler and Butterfly, Scroll of Charm, as well as Runes of Fist of Wind, Rune of Light, and Rune of Healing. Iberian will give you Iberian's focus map once you tell him that you'll bring back the focus. As if. By beating up Nairaz, you will be able to get the Steel Tongue, as well as the focus from the Ocean Cliff. As a reward for bringing back the focus, Iberian will give you the Amulet of Flames to keep the focus of the Ocean Cliff while still progressing the quest. Just as you're selecting the option to give the focus away, press Ctrl down to drop the item on the ground. The game will think that you've given the focus away, but Core Kalam is too blind to see that it is, in fact, in front of him. From Darien, you can buy the Morning Star. In the side valley that is near Cavalon's hut, in a cave past a load of snappers, you'll be able to find an ice block scroll. From Cavalon, you can buy a hunting bow. By beating up Gorn Abar and the Templar that accompanies him, you'll be able to get the Mercenary's Blade, Custodian's Blade, as well as the Sign of the Brotherhood. A gear wheel can be found in one of the side shafts, one level below Ian. On the bottom level of the old mine, in one of the side shafts, you can find a bone bow whose previous owner seems to be pretty boned. In the other side shaft on the bottom level, did you know that there is a barrel you can hide in? Anyway, there's also a stone crusher in there. To keep the gear wheel while still progressing the plot, simply drop it as you're selecting the option to give it away. Then pick it up off of the ground. Marvellous. In the nest of the Minecrawlers, you can find Minecrawler eggs. To congratulate you on the assault on the Minecrawlers, Ian will give you some bottles of strong beer. To keep the almanac while still progressing the plot, simply read it as you're giving it away to Core Kalam. Common theme. Surprise, it's chapter 3. It's going to be significantly longer than chapter 2. From Darien, you will be able to buy the Warhammer and the God's Hammer. From Balkadar, you can forcefully acquire a Potion of Velocity, a Ring of Lesser Invincibility, a Ring of Purification, a Ring of Steadfastness, Scrolls of Transform into Lizard and Meatbug, Scroll of Stormfist, Scroll of Sleep, Scroll of Pyrokinesis, Scroll of Fear, Scroll of Control, Rune of Telekinesis, Rune of Sleep, and Rune of Charm. At this point from Fisk you can buy a Longsword, Sword of Hate, Sword of Victory, as well as a broadsword. From Cavalorn you can buy the Hedgebow, Willowbow, Oakbow, and the Wolf Shredder. By becoming accepted as a mercenary, you'll be able to get the Light Mercenary Armor. By beating up Lefty you can claim his weapon, the Bloodfly Sting, as your own. By besting an Orc Scout you can claim his Crush Varrock. The Dead Templar just in front of the cemetery possesses a Judgment Sword. Inside the cave you'll be able to find Lunanake. A Dead Templar that you find on your way to Baal Lucor possesses a War Sword. In one of the side caves you can find a Crush Patch as well as the bottom half of a parchment. In another side cave you are able to find the Rusty Bastard Sword as well as the top half of the parchment. The Orc Warrior in the final side cave possesses the Crush Urok. I tried my best to keep both halves of the parchment, but by the looks of it I can't keep the bottom half, so I'll just have to make do with the top one. If you have any more luck, tell me in the comments. After Baal Lucor's revelation about the spell scroll, as well as the other revelation about being in the right room, he will give you the Orc Teleport spell. To keep it, without ever using it, transform into a meatbug in front of the wall, then transform back, then shimmy through the wall like a phantom, and behold. The meatbug transformation spell is a little bit broken. We love it all. Embedded into a stone table deeper inside is a Sword of Death. You can acquire the skin of a swamp shark by killing a swamp shark, assuming that you have learned skinning reptiles beforehand. Korangar will give you Kalam's laboratory key as soon as you give him the 5 healing herbs, and then he'll give you the rune of teleport to Swamp Camp as soon as he sends you on your way. In Kalam's right chest, I found what would have been my second copies of the Almanac and Focus from the Ocean Cliff. By beating up the mage Murdarian in the new camp, you will be able to acquire the Amulet of Life Force, as well as one of 2 runes of Chain Lightning that actually exist in the game. Small correction during editing, there's actually 3 runes of Chain Lightning. One is on Murdarian, one is on an Orc Shaman, the third one is actually on Satyrus. I can't get it from Satyrus because Satyrus is invincible and will kick my ass. So yeah, you can get 2, but there's actually 3. In the library, you can find the books of Arcanum Golem, Volumes 1 and 2, True Power, Battle of Arand, Volume 2, Secrets of Magic, Astronomy, and Elementary Arcanum. In a chest that's in Riordan's hut, you can find Flamethorn. In the chest that is right next to Riordan's hut, you can find Salt. You can keep the second copies of the Almanac and Focus from the Ocean Cliff by reading the Almanac as you're giving it away, like you've done with so many bits of writing beforehand, and you can drop the Focus on the ground as you're giving it away, as you've done with a number of quest items beforehand. When you volunteer to acquire the 4 remaining Focus Stones, Satyrus will give you Satyrus's Focus Map, as well as a Teleport to New Camp scroll. By going to Riordan to claim your reward for bringing back the Focus Stone and Almanac, I have acquired my first Essence of Magic Energy. By going up the mountain path that is right next to the New Camp Gate, you can find Mountain Moss, as well as Dragon Root. By agreeing to help out Milton's cunning plan to take out the Ring of Stone Guardian, you'll be able to acquire your first Scroll of Death to Undead. If your strength is high enough, you can just kill the zombie in normal melee, and from it, you can gain this key from the Ring of Stone. You would have also be able to have gained the Orc Amulet if Milton didn't interrupt you. No matter, you can get one later. In the right chest of the Ring of Stone, you can acquire the Focus from the Ring of Stone. By killing an Orc Dog, you can acquire the skin of an Orc Dog, assuming you know how to take skins as trophy-taking skills. By a half-cut-down tree between the Ring of Stone and the meeting cave of the boys, you can acquire an Oak Leaf. To acquire a Fire Robe, despite not being a Magician of Fire, first use the Control Scroll on a Fire Magician such as Rodriguez. Then, when he is controlled, go over to a dead NPC who has not been looted yet and drop your items onto the ground. Then, pick up the Fire Robe off of the ground to keep it. You'll be doing this a lot more later, so prepare yourself. At this point from Torres, you can acquire the Words of the Gods, Volumes 1, 2, and 3, the Circles of Magic, 1 through 6, as well as the Scroll of Storm of Fire, Scroll of Fire Rain, Rune of Storm of Fire, Rune of Firebolt, as well as the Rune of Fireball. And now some minor sad news for this challenge. I am unable to acquire the High Robes of Fire for this challenge since only Karisto wears them, and the exploit to get armors off of NPCs does not work if the NPC is invincible, or dead later. So yeah, I have a workaround for this later. To acquire the focus from the Troll Canyon without partaking in scripted shenanigans, first transform into a bloodfly and fly along the cliff edge. Then, when you arrive onto this rock that is just above the focus platform, transform into something along the lines of a mole rat. You can then fall through the gap in the rocks and transform as you land to take your full damage. Then murder all the harpies in a bloodlust rage, then take the focus for yourself. Back down in the valley by the skeleton, you can find dark herbs, a shrink monster scroll, as well as the journal page that used to belong to the troll hunter. By killing a troll, you can take its troll skin, assuming you know how to take skins as a trophy taking skill. In a cave near the mountain fort, you are able to find an orc hammer. Within the mountain fort, on the bottom level in a chest is a key to a chest. Using that key on a chest on the next floor up will give you the title deed. By using a scroll of telekinesis, you are able to displace the focus off of the platform, and then, once you get back down to the ground level, you can acquire the focus from the mountain fort. Near the ruined monastery in the chasm, you can find the key of the monastery. Using that key, you are then able to acquire the focus from the ruined monastery. You are then able to keep each of the focus stones by dropping them onto the ground mid-dialogue. Make sure to pick them back up though. As a reward for bringing back the remaining focus stones, Reordian will give you a lot of nice potions, including an extract of spirit, as well as a potion of power. Upon agreeing to try and convince the magicians of fire, Satyrus will give you the rune of teleport to the new camp. And just like that, we made it to chapter 4. It'll be significantly shorter in video form than it was in person to record. You'll see why in a minute. From Kronos, you can buy the Overview of the New Camp, Ring of Strength, Amulet of Power, Amulet of Oakskin, Ring of Greater Life, Ring of Greater Dexterity, Ring of Magic, Ring of Enlightenment, Warrior's Ring of Power, Amulet of Agility, Amulet of Magic, Scroll of Transform into Snapper and Orc Dog, as well as scrolls of Ice Bolt, Ball Lightning, Wave of Ice, and Chain Lightning. From Scorpio, the Runaway Guard, you can buy an Amulet of Strength, an Amulet of Dexterity, a Crossbow, Warrior's Verdict, Storm Whisper, Guard's Hand, Butcher, Executor, and Berserker's Word. At this point you can enter the Ring of Water, thus becoming a Magician of the Circle of Water, and thus receiving the Robe of Water. That's a lot of water. From Balkadar you can forcefully take the Ring of Greater Invincibility, the Ring of Invincibility, the Ring of Impeachability, Scroll of Sleep, Scroll of Pyrokinesis, as well as the runes of Stormfist, Pyrokinesis, and Control. And now that I have the Rune of Control, this is where the fun begins. Perform the same exploit that I did with the Magicians of Fire, and with that I can acquire a Novice's Loincloth. And then I can get the Templar's Armor. And then I can get the Light Novice's Armor. But why stop there, since with the power of the control spell you can acquire the Guru's Robe, something that is otherwise unacquirable. Why not stop by Fortuna's again, and also take his normal Novice's Armor? You know, I never really talked to Kalam's bodyguard, so why not take his heavy Templar's Armor? And just for contrast, why not have some light Templar's armor as well? But why just stop with the armor of the sect? How about a heavy rogue's dress and a steel mace to boot? You know, I've always liked the look of the normal rogue's dress, it always had a nice scarf to it. To briefly interlude the power trip that is taking other people's armors, from Sharky at this point in the game you can acquire the Skull Clefter, Light Battle Axe, and Thunderstrike. Briefly returning to stealing armor, you can acquire a normal mercenary's armor by controlling a normal mercenary. Once again returning to shopping, you can buy from Wolf the Windbreaker, the Army Bow, and the Horn Bow. With the power of magic, I can acquire the Heavy Mercenary's Armor, which for some reason uses the model of the Heavy Guard's Armor when looking at it in your inventory. By beating up Cord, you can acquire Cord's Clefter. As a little interlude, I have also managed to somehow delete the footage of me getting the key to the free mine from Gorn. I believe what happened was, I saw me talking to Gorn, was like, nothing important happens here, and just deleted the clip. But yes, you get the key to the free mine from Gorn, at about this point in the game. Oopsies. By finding Okul's dead body in the free mine, you can get the Warrior's Voice. Picking on Jackal again, you can acquire the Heavy Guard's Armor. But here, I discovered something glorious. You can spin corpses. Anyway, enough of that. Using the exploitative powers of the control spell, you can then acquire the normal guard's armor. I did it again, didn't I? From Riordan, you can buy a Rune of Ball Lightning. On the path towards Xardus' 3 golems, you can acquire the Old Battle Axe. By beating the Stone Golem with a bludgeoning implement, you are able to acquire the Heart of the Stone Golem. By purging the Ice Golem in Holy Fire, you are able to acquire the Piece of an Ice Golem and the Heart of an Ice Golem. By using the magic that I bought 4 sentences ago, I was able to acquire the Heart of a Fire Golem. To get the rune to teleport to Xardus while still keeping all of the hearts, simply drop them as you're giving them away to the Fire Demon. Simple as, I must say. From Xardus, you can buy the Scrolls of Summon Skeleton and Summon Golem, as well as the Rune of Death to the Undead. Crush Brock Dars can be acquired from the Orc Temple warriors that are attacking Urshak in the Old Citadel. Remember how I said the second copy of the map of the colony would be useful? Well, if you give it to Urshak, he'll be able to finish it for you, giving you the complete map of the colony. After bonding with Urshak, he gives you the Orc Talisman, which you could have had earlier if Milton didn't say no. From the Minecrawler warriors in the not-so-free mine, you can acquire the armor plate of a Minecrawler warrior, assuming you talked to Wolf before you went into the mine. Climbing up out of the Minecrawler pit and just before the drop towards Tarok, you're able to find the Potion of Quick Healing, which ironically is the weakest of all the healing potions, as well as the slowest of them all to drink. In a little nook on the bottom level of the mine, you are able to find Orc Medicine, as well as the book, A Gift from the Gods. To keep the Orc Medicine while still progressing the plot, you may drink the potion whilst you are in dialogue. You won't finish drinking the potion, so you won't die. Don't worry about that. You are able to acquire the Light Guard's armor by controlling a guard who is wearing it. Who would have thought? In a similar fashion, you are then able to acquire the Shadow's Dress. Near the bellows of the Great Smelter, you are able to find the Old Judge. It's a battle axe that deals 69 damage. Nice. By controlling a digger, you are then able to acquire the Light Digger's Trousers. By killing a swamp shark, you are able to acquire the teeth of a swamp shark, assuming that you learned how to do so from Tarok. By killing a troll, you are able to acquire its troll tusks, assuming that you learned how to do so from Tarok. Again. By killing a fire lizard, you are able to acquire its tongue of fire, assuming you learned once again how to do so from Tarok. By defeating the skeleton mage of the Fog Tower, you are able to acquire the first book of Chromanin, as well as a Rune of Icebolt. After reading the first book of Chromanin, the second book will appear at the top of the tower of the Old Citadel. After reading the second book of Chromanin, the third book will appear on Little Island on the river, which is nearby the old camp. After reading the third book of Chromanin, the fourth book will appear on the other side of the lake at the new camp. After reading the fourth book of Chromanin, the fifth book will appear by the old shipwreck. After reading the fifth book of Chromanin, the sixth book will appear on a corpse back in the depths of the Fog Tower, where you fought the skeleton mage of the Fog Tower beforehand. By giving Tarok a horn of a shadow beast, a troll tusk, tooth of a swamp shark, and a tongue of a fire lizard, you are able to acquire the Ulumulu. Upon recording my 208th voice clip, I realized that we are now in Chapter 5, only a little bit more to go and then we'll be done. At this point, you are able to buy from Satyrus the High Robe of Water. From Kronos, you can buy an Amulet of Oreskin, an Amulet of Purification, a Transform into Shadow Beast scroll, as well as runes of Wave of Ice and Ice Block. In Chapter 5, from Wolf, you can acquire the Minecrawler Plate armor, assuming that in the previous chapter you gave him 15 armor plates of a Minecrawler warrior. From Wolf, you can buy the Field Bow, Nimrod Bow, War Bow, Orc Chaser, Storm Bow, Demon Bow, and the Bow of Death. From Sharky, you can buy the War Axe. From Xardus, you can buy the Amulet of Might, Amulet of Enlightenment, Scroll of Summon Demon, Scroll of Army of Darkness, as well as the Rune of Rain of Fire. A Crush, a Gash can be found on certain Orc clan warriors. A second Orc teleport scroll can be found in one of the Orc shaman's quarters. This is exactly the same as the spell scroll from the Orc cemetery. It's just because you're in a different world, it takes you to a different location. The Orc shamans each possess a Grachnak. With the power of telekinesis, you are able to displace the figurine off the top of its pillar and keep it for yourself. In another cave of the Orc town, on the throne, there is a horn, whilst in the chest next to it you can find the weapon, the Crush Karok. In the Orc town dungeon, you are able to find, behind a gate, Revenge Steel. In the Temple of the Sleeper, in the puzzle room that opens the door to the first Orc Shaman, in a little hidey hole, you're able to find the weapon, the Smash. On the Orc Shaman Varag Hashor, you are able to find the Clefter of Worlds. The Orc Shaman Varag Unhilkt possesses the Blade of Time, as well as a Shabanak. In the little trapped sarcophagus room, you are able to find the Rage Steel, as well as an Elixir of Dexterity, an Elixir of Life, and an Elixir of Spirit. In a side cave on a makeshift table, you are able to find a journal. And further inside, in a small minecrawl nest, you are able to find the weapon, Barbarian's Fist. In one of the switch rooms, which surrounds the Magma Lake, you are able to find the Hero's Blade. The Orc Shaman, Varag Rushk, has on him Demon Strike. Right next to said Orc Shaman, you can find a strange sword. In the web-laden minecrawler tunnels, you are able to find the Blood Blade. From Varag Kasorg, you are able to acquire the Blade of Light. By picking the switch that provides the most resistance from the minecrawlers, it opens up a little treasure room which contains the Troll Fist as well as an Elixir of Strength. Strategically exiting the Temple of the Sleeper before things get a little too hairy for my personal tastes. From Darien, you can buy the Demonic Blade, Two-Hander, Heavy Two-Hander, as well as Wrath Steel. To keep the strange sword, whilst also acquiring Eurythiel in its uncharged state, simply drop it on the ground whilst you are in dialogue. When you exclaim your need for better armor, Zardos will give you a key to the sunken tower, in which you will probably be able to find some nice shiny things. By being raised into the 6th circle of magic by Zardos, he will give you the Robe of the Dark Arts. In a chest in the sunken tower, you are able to find a rune of teleport to Old Camp, as well as the ancient ore armor. By returning to Zardos with the ore armor in hand, from him you are able to get the spell to activate Eurythiel. And here I have to present another slight bit of sad news for this challenge. When activating Eurythiel again, you have to give away 2 items, the strange sword and the transfer of power. Well, you can only really drop one of them at a time, so in the end I decided to keep the transfer of power whilst giving away the strange sword. Oh well. Here we are, Chapter 6, the last stretch of the game. Around about 25 items are left to complete the challenge. This bit is going to be very, very... To keep Eurythiel in its charged state, whilst also acquiring Eurythiel in its uncharged state, as well as the rune of Eurythiel's Wave of Death, simply drop Eurythiel onto the ground as you're giving it to Zardos for him to do his business. After you acquire this one-of-a-kind rune from the one gem that's in the sword, for some reason Zardos can sell you 2 more of them. Upon teleporting back into the old camp, you can control Bartholo to acquire the key to the store to the Ore Baron's cellar, the Robe of State, as well as the sword Paws Punch. By controlling Raven, you are able to acquire the heavy Ore Baron's armor, as well as the sword Raven's Right. By killing Thoros, you are then able to acquire Thoros' sword. By controlling Gomez, you are able to acquire the dungeon key, Gomez's bowl key, Gomez's armor, as well as the sword Inos's Rage. By controlling Scatty, you are able to acquire the Shadow's armor. Instead of buying the normal digger's trousers like a normal person at the beginning of the game, instead I have to resort to controlling Grim, who happens to be the only digger that I know of that wears the actual digger's trousers. To get the improved ore armor while still keeping the ancient ore armor, 3 guesses what I'm about to do. By killing Grashvarag Arushat, you are able to acquire the Blade of Banishment, as well as the Rune of Breath of Death. Just beyond the gate that is opened with the 5 swords you acquired from the shaman, in the side rooms on one of the mummies you are able to find a potion of supremacy. And now for the most fun part of them all, in a process that requires 4,000 mana, a spell that takes about 26 minutes to cast. By controlling Kor Kalam, you are able to acquire the High Robe of the Gurus, as well as Kalam's sword. In a rather less spectacular fashion, by bonking an obsessed novice, you are able to then take his judgment staff. I still have a few more items to get back in the overworld, but for whatever reason, the gate closes behind you as you go into the temple, so I needed to shimmy myself out with a shimmy glitch. It has a name probably, but I forgot what it is, so yeah. From Riordan, you can buy a potion of haste. In a chest in a room of one of the late fire magicians, you can find the book, A Powerful Art. In Snap's hut, you are able to find the first volume of the book, Recipes. In the old camp, in a hut that is nearby the North Gate, you are able to find the book, Murtana's Poetry. In the sect camp, by beating up someone who is mashing the weeds, you are able to acquire a weed masher. Remember how I said I had a workaround for not being able to get the high robes of fire? Well, Karisto's still wearing them, and he hasn't despawned yet, so why not move my collection from Shrike's hut to the pentagram, right next to Karisto? This is totally the same and comparable to having the item in my inventory. Shush. Anyway, with that, the challenge is completed. That took a not insignificant amount of time. And that's the video. I'll admit, I didn't get every single item that exists in-game, because some of them I can't get. For example, Namib's Club, Diego's Bow, and Gorn's Axe, because those 3 NPCs are invincible and I just can't interact with them in any way to get the weapons. So yeah, if you want me to continue recording my voice, please say so. If not, also say so. If I missed anything, please tell me down below. And yeah. Have fun, love each other. Welcome to 2023.